This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Thursday, May 2nd, 2024. And I have the awesome Basil with me here, all the way from the UK. Hi, Basil. How are you?
Hey. I'm doing well. I'm doing very well, Miriam. All the better to be here. How about you?
I'm good. It's the middle of the day for me, the evening for you. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff because one of the things I haven't covered on the show yet too extensively and that you just reviewed is the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. And I've been using it. I love it. I don't have a review out or anything, but I have a lot of thoughts. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts. I do need to rant about Rabbit R1 a little bit. And you've reviewed a boatload of phones recently that I don't have and that are really interesting. Things that were announced at MWC, etc. So let's cover all that. And then we get some news because, you know, news is the news.
Yes.
So let's start about R1. I want to kind of get your feel for what, as a person reading all this stuff from far away, since I don't think it's sold in the UK yet, right?
No.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on Rabbit R1 and these AI, what do you want to call them? Devices, toys, whatever?
They are such a concept for everyone here because on the one hand, they're like being panned by all the reviews, but on the other, they're still this forbidden fruit type thing because none of the media is getting their hands on them. I mean, it's interesting, but also there's a kind of like glee sitting on the sidelines playing out, thinking to myself, actually, I'm kind of glad I didn't have to review this version of this product because it seemed like the reviews have been difficult to do. How have you found it?
Well, you're right. It's challenging because it's a completely new category of product, right? So that's the first thing that's like, what do you do? How do you review this? And then the other thing is it's just so not baked, right? Like and I hate to say it because look, I knew when this stuff was announced, just because I know Silicon Valley, I'm right here in San Francisco. I get it. There's a lot of hubris and of like, you know, pie is the sky. And it's gotten really worse since the crypto and NFT phase. And now it's going into the AI phase. The reality, I've been actually thinking about this a lot this past week with R1 in my hand. The reality is that AI, what we call AI today, machine learning, you know, enhancing our lives, has been a thing that's reliable and solid for a while now. Like that is how, you know, your camera phone figures out like how to segment the image to get the right, you know, focus distances when it's doing portrait, when it's doing, you know, enhancing the sky versus the face, all that stuff, right? So it's nothing new in a way. A lot of the computational photography relies on what we call AI. I think what's very different here is that we have this generative aspect, right? Like this AI being creative and hallucinating half the time and being right half the time. And that is leading us to some really cool and also questionable ethically and copyright-wise things like, you know, these image generators and the AI to write, you know, to help you write. I mean, all that stuff is based on data that's stolen right now mostly, which is kind of sucky. But at the same time, as an engineer, as a nerd, I cannot say this isn't cool. It absolutely is. So I'm not against any of it. My issue is that it's kind of it's like NFT and it's like crypto before it. You know, it's very speculative in terms of like, there's a lot of people going into it hoping to make money and not going into it for the tech and for like the effort. And I think this is a reflection, like R1, when I hold it right here for the Patreons, when I hold R1 in my hand, R1 is really just a reflection of, you know, what the entire Silicon Valley is doing, right? It's like a physical manifestation of everything that's wrong with technology in the last 10 years, you know, because it's just not baked. And it's the first time really in a long time, and it seems to be getting worse, that we're getting products that are not unfinished, right? From the get-go. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I don't know if it's like the first time. Like, I don't know. Do you remember we were getting things like the HTC Boom Base, like, and the like M7, the Max with the case that kind of didn't really, like, I don't know. I think there have been half-baked products for a while that had been testing the waters, but they haven't been grabbing quite as many headlines because they haven't touted an entirely new like category of technology.
Yeah, and that's the big difference here. We've had failed products, right? We've had products that were really silly, like Juicero, right? And you could argue that, and I've been on this ride for 6 years now. You could argue that, a lot of the startups in the EV car world, the Chinese companies included, and of course I'm talking about Tesla and the others, they are very speculative in their approach, right? They are basically coming out with products that are very beta and hoping to refine them through gathering data to improve their machine learning models and through customer feedback. Like my Teslas, I have two of them in a row, 3 years each, have improved drastically in software. Not just because they weren't baked, that's the big difference. They worked from day one. They just had a lot of beta features, and those beta features eventually got, kind of like smoothed out. And also we got all this feedback to Tesla and they made the car better, right? That I'm cool with, but we could already see some of that going on. And I think the Cybertruck is a great example of that gone wrong, because just like Rabbit R1, just like Humane AI Pin, they launched this thing before it was ready, because like they promised, that they don't even have autopilot, which is like a staple of a Tesla vehicle. Like, you know what I'm saying?
So I'm like, I also think at a base level, you think about an electric car, you know why you would want one. I saw this, the R1 and the Humane Pin, and I didn't get it. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm just like a little bit like I'm not creative enough. I can't like really, but actually, no, I need a bit more conviction in my initial opinion, which is just why does this exist? Because
Right.
it's like it's another device.
And that's what
Another
I'm trying to
device.
say to you. Like
Yeah.
we've had failed products. We've had this beta mentality.
Yeah,
But
yeah. You're
this,
right.
the
Yeah.
difference here is that unlike that HTC stand or whatever that you
Yeah.
talk about, unlike Juicero who actually outputted some liquid you could drink, this thing is just, what's the purpose of it,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then on top of that, Humane is, the AI Pin is so expensive, and the subscription base, and then their marketing, their entire messaging around it was so full of
Yeah.
BS. Like from the day
Yeah.
the get-go, I was like, these people they personify the jerks I see at the coffee shop masturbating mentally about
Yeah.
the freaking, crypto, NFT, and AI. I hear this all over the city here all the time. I just don't know what bubble they live in, because I live in San Francisco and I'm certainly not in that bubble, and I'm a tech person. I don't get it. Like they live in a parallel universe, I swear.
Yeah.
And I think with Rabbit, at least, I felt that it was much more whimsical, quirky in its marketing. It was kind of not too pretentious. So it was more, and of course, teenage engineering, the design. This is a beautiful piece of hardware that's
Yeah.
very, very cheap to make. I think it's probably $25 a bill of materials. It is very, very clean, very nice. It's not fancy by any means. The parts are very basic too, like all the camera specs and the display and all that. It doesn't have much in terms of ports and things, but it's fine. Like, this is basically half a smartphone, as we all know, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, you want this, whatever it is, to make your life easier. How's it going to make your life easier? I kind of get with a Humane Pin to a degree because it's on you. You don't have to pull something out. You can just kind of start talking to it. But with the Rabbit, you have to still pull it out of your pocket. It does less than your phone.
Exactly.
So while I agree with you in principle, I prefer, like, I really also like admire the fact they announced this at CES and it's here. That was pretty quick. Like, I get it's a beta, but like, this is something that a lot of companies aren't getting right.
And that's what I'm trying to say. The hardware is fine. Like, I mean, for the intended purpose, and they're making a big profit on it because they need to pay for the subscription to all the AI backend. I get that. The servers that they're virtually running, all these LAMs, I get that. That's cool. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is that you said I'm actually okay with the fact that we don't know what this product is about because it's a completely new category. So, we have to explore that. I agree with you 100%. Why not carry, like, if I carry a second phone instead of this with ChatGPT in it, like Nothing Phone 2A just got the ChatGPT upgrade, and so did Phone 1, and Phone 2 got it like a month ago. If I had that in my pocket, I'd have pretty much the same experience, actually way better because it's a real phone. I can do all this other stuff. So that's not in question. And I'm not disagreeing with the explorative aspects of trying new form factors and devices. I don't want that to end. What I'm concerned about here is that in a device that we don't know what it's meant to do in the first place, it is essentially alpha, not even beta, right?
Yeah. And the irony of this is, out of everyone I know, I was racking my brain thinking who would actually benefit, not use, but benefit from this product. And it's my dad. My dad, it's like...
Really?
He isn't tech literate. He asks like his voice assistance things in the house that I set up for him, things all the time, like the most, like, is broccoli healthy, like that kind of stuff. And he doesn't like using his phone because the screen is quite fiddly. And even like, I know that the interface is a whole can of worms on this thing that is a pain in the backside from what I've seen.
Oh my.
Just, he would press a button and talk to it all day long. That's it. He's the only person I can think of.
The problem is that half the time what you would hear as an answer is just plain wrong. And that's okay. So let's I don't want to spend too much more time on this because I want to jump on the Xiaomi. But look, if you want my review quickly, I love the hardware. I love how whimsical and quirky it is. I love the teenage engineering vibe, the orange, the scroll wheel. The user experience around the scroll wheel could be improved drastically. There's a lot of UI improvements that can happen, but that's easy. That's easy software that they can fix, and I'm not too worried about that. I think they should activate the touchscreen for other things than just the keyboard, and they could, and I think they will eventually. But right now, I'm happy with that. My biggest gripe right now is that the 4 LAMs that they have don't work. Okay, so let's go through them. Spotify, yes, you can tell it to play music. Half the time, it doesn't play what you asked it to play, even though you were very clear about what you wanted. If you ask for an album, it just plays one song and then goes to whatever random next thing you want. Again, this can be fixed in software to some extent. Audio is mono because it's streamed from the server. It is not played locally on a Spotify app. And for some reason, they didn't even realize that. I'm the only one who's been complaining about this all week, and nobody's been validating. I'm not sure if it's a bug on mine or if it's reality. Even the PR people haven't told me whether I'm right or wrong. When you pair Bluetooth earbuds, and I've tried multiple, you get a mono output from this device. And with, on top of that, the crappiness of Spotify in the first place, because it's compressed audio, it's a terrible experience. And then, it doesn't play what you want. It randomly stops playing in the middle of stuff, even though the UI says it's still playing. And even after rebooting, sometimes it doesn't resume because what it is the instance in the cloud has crashed or whatever, or the AI is unable, the LAM is unable to recognize what's happening in the virtual window of that app running on a window of a web browser or of a Windows instance on a server somewhere in freaking who knows what. And I've logged into this not knowing if they captured my login in the process. Like, there are so many problems here, right?
Yeah.
So Spotify is kind of broken, but it at least works a little bit. Mono, oh God. Second is DoorDash. I have not managed to get DoorDash to work. I get to a point where I get given choices. Usually when I ask it for, like, what's a good pizza restaurant around here, and it picks places I've never been to or heard of in my own city that are not remotely near me. There are 3 pizza restaurants that are walking distance from my house. It never chooses them. And I wish after I made a query and it failed, I could just say, hey, AI, learn from this. I have 3 pizza places near my house. Look at the geo coordinates and figure out where they are. Yeah. Like, I can't do that. Somehow, that's the biggest problem I have. Like, I love that on ChatGPT, you can give it feedback saying, oh, the result was bad or good, right? The AI audio tools that I use, Auphonic, which is a French company. It's all based online. You upload your audio, you do all your tweaks, you get all these sliders. It's very professional. It's kind of very complicated. But when you get a result, you can rate the result and they will take that feedback. So that's good. But here you have no way of rating the result. And then on top of that, Uber is the same way. Like half the time it doesn't know where I am. And if it does, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
It's like after you call the vehicle, it's like you're in limbo. You have to actually probably pull out your phone to look at your Uber app and see what's going on. And then, Midjourney, I'm not going to pay for a Midjourney subscription, so I haven't tried it. So I don't know. And why do I need this for Midjourney? Midjourney is something I want to do on my Mac or like on a big screen to see that big image and refine my prompt. Like, the whole thing is like that. And then you can't set, like, I understand there's analytics to my Google account, so I don't expect it to know my schedule, but it can't set timers. It can't, how can you not set timers? Like, can't you just like fork that out to like Google Assistant or something, a public version of it that it does that for you? Like, forget it, guys. Just don't spend your money on this. Let's see how it develops. But ultimately, we found out this week it's just an Android app. No surprises. Running on top of a slightly modified Android open source distribution, AOSP, that has, apparently the Android app has a lot of permissions that you can't normally get to an Android app because it's kind of the kernel and the whole Android OS on this thing have been modified. Because you don't want the barriers that it wants to be able to read the screen and access the microphones and whatever, right? So I get all that, and that's totally fine. But there's no reason this couldn't be an Android app, right? We know that now. Yeah. And in fact, I'm really looking forward to somebody breaking the bootloader on this and flashing some kind of like generic Android build on this thing. It'd be a cool little mini phone.
Yeah.
And that's, and there's so many other things. And Basil, you know this about how this PR was handled around review units and stuff that, as a journalist, it really irks me because normally I get a review unit. I don't spend my own money on something, especially something that's as iffy as that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk Xiaomi before I can lose my mind here.
Much, much happier subject by the sounds of it.
Yes. So you've just reviewed it. You've given me 3 links to 3 different things. I'm going to post your YouTube video because YouTube video is awesome, right? People can relate to video really well.
Yeah.
But what are the 2?
So T3.com is for anyone in the US, a more lifestyle type tech publication here in the UK. And Digital Camera World is for the camera geeks.
That's right.
Yeah. And the YouTube video is for...
This is your world. Yeah, that's why I posted it. And I don't have anything publicly out there other than a few photos on Instagram. Here's the thing you need to know. This is by far the best camera on any phone I have ever used. And I think it's by far even the best camera on any phone today, in my opinion. Am I happy with the output? Most of the time. I do think they lean more into this as a camera experience than a phone experience. And I kind of want the best of both worlds. I wish it was more HDR-y sometimes. Like I feel that even when the HDR turned on, you get some blown highlights and you get some really dark shadows and you cannot see the things you would expect to see with a photo from an iPhone, Samsung, Google, insert any other phone here. And that is on purpose and chose, and I've tried the different, Leica profiles. That's the only thing that I wish that was only the case in the pro modes.
Yeah.
Or the master modes or whatever. Other than that, the hardware, the software, it's just, wow, the aperture, playing with the aperture, it's just a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
will say though, like I agree with you. And this was last time I was on this podcast, we talked about the 13T, and that was like a deal breaker for the 13T, the processing. But because of whether it's a superior hardware or updated processing, there's a lot of, even in those dark shadows, there's a lot of detail that you can salvage.
It's preserving all of it. You can play with it. That's the part
is amazing.
That's the best. You don't even have to save RAW to actually have some really good starting points. Yeah. I have edited some of these photos just in Google Photos, JPEG, and gotten like, wow, look, I can go back to a pixel level of HDR-ness by just playing with the settings, which is really amazing. But I wish I could get a photo that's more usable right off the get-go sometimes. The shallow depth of field is a little hard to manage sometimes,
Yeah.
especially when you're shooting in low light. It kind of defaults in auto mode to f over 1.6. If you're getting close to, like literally, if you're taking photos of food like 20 centimeters from the camera, and I generally punch 2x at this point as well because I don't want that kind of fish-eyedness feel. And of course, at 2x, it's lossless, which is great. But then because it can't pixel bin, it's actually trying to gather as much light as you can. And you can lose focus on a grain of freaking rice.
Yeah.
So my advice is if you can manually change the aperture anytime. So I've been shooting at 2.8 or something. Yes, you get less light. Try to move a little less and get good results. But that's not something an average human wants to manage. No. And you're going to say, well, but that's the kind of phone it is. It's kind of like the Sony, Xperias where you have all these settings and you can tweak everything. I'm on board to some extent. Like, I don't want to live in pro mode. I don't want to live, even in auto mode, I don't want to have to worry too much about the aperture. And sometimes I do.
Yeah,
so,
I agree. But I will say the real game changer for me, beyond the hardware, is the camera grip. Because
oh my god, the accessory! Oh, it's so good.
So
I got a polarized filter here. Actually, I've got it in the case, but without the grip here. And I've replaced this with the actual mount for a 6.5, centimeter thing, and I put a polarizer on it. Yeah. And for photos of cars, guys. Game changer, because in cars you often get this the sky is reflecting on the paint in this weird way. I'm in sunny California. I can't, unless I shoot in the shade. It's really, even in the shade you get these weird bouncing light things, and with a polarizer just fix it.
Yeah.
The fact that this camera accessory package, and the fact that it's not Bluetooth, it locks in place, you can charge through it, it gives you extra battery. They've thought of everything. All the controls can be reassigned. Oh my god, it's so good.
It's got a lanyard. So I literally I have it in my jacket, and I'll just loop my hand through the lanyard, pull it out, long press the camera button, and I've taken a picture. And this is like a split second thing that I would have missed on any other phone that I'd be fumbling on. So, and the fact the camera hardware backs it up. And what I found really interesting as well is I ended up using the telecameras, not just the periscope, but the 3x tele, much more than I thought I would. Xiaomi's widened the aperture versus 13 Ultra. And between the new processing and the wider aperture, even though it's the same sensor, the IMX858, it's still, so it isn't the biggest sensor on a telecamera. The Find X7 Ultra's zoom sensor is larger, but I just get more reliable results. Oh,
it's way better, in my opinion, even with all these software updates. We're going to talk about this next, than the Oppo Find X7 Ultra, and that's a big, that's a big statement. In fact, in my testing, I think it's better than any. Don't have the Vivo X100 Pro. That's probably the only one I would might beat this in telephoto. But you're right. Every lens is a delight to use, and every lens gives you like this incredible creative freedom, and then the variable aperture on top of that. That sensor is so massive. The amount of detail and sharpness, and I mean the lenses are really good too. Like like it's just the whole thing. The software experience, the camera experience is really good, especially with the accessories and the imaging pipeline. Man, it is so solid. Like the so few differences between lenses, the color science, the accuracy of the exposure, and it just blows my mind that something, again, opposite to R1 here, came out of the gate so polished.
Yeah. But like also, Xiaomi's used the same sensor for the two teles and the ultra wide, and the main camera is also a 50 megapixel sensor, even though it's the Light 900. So you have 50 megapixel resolution across all of them. So it's the same kind of size image that's being processed.
And they're all Sony's too.
All Sony sensors. And so it's almost like I'm so surprised, like no other manufacturer has been committed to a suite of hardware that like harmonizes so well.
Yeah, this is it. You just nailed it. Because I just feel like, when I play with the Oppo, it's not quite that well sorted because there's too many variations. And yes, it has dual periscopes, but this doesn't really seem to make much a difference. In fact, I think this is better.
So
So
I have had better photos, one-off photos from my Find X7 Ultra than I have from my Xiaomi, in the sense that HDR type look, it's
yeah.
still more like photographic, but the Xiaomi is without a doubt a much more reliable experience. I know exactly what photo I'm going to get across all the cameras, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. The HDRness issue that I brought up initially is definitely less pronounced on the whole Hasselblad imaging suite. And it's not just Oppo; it's OnePlus as well with the 12 and the
Yeah.
Open.
Oh yeah.
Which is why these two cameras have become one of my some of my favorites this year, because they are, and the Oppo as well, if it was available here, is because you know they're delivering, at least here in North America, the kind of a third player in a way, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
fourth player if you count Google as well, right? Like, because Samsung, Apple, and Google. So look, I cannot recommend the Xiaomi 14 Ultra more. It is absolutely the best camera phone I've ever used, and it just makes me so happy to use it. As a phone, phenomenal as well. I've got some feedback. I don't like this very iOS, swipe from the top left and you get the notification on the top right. You get the quick settings, and if you try to
Yeah.
swipe a notification, can't remember which way. I think from right to left, you end up in the quick settings.
Yeah.
You have to dismiss
Yeah.
them from left to right. That is just driving me nuts because that used to be a setting in before HyperOS and back in MIUI, and honestly, that's the only part. And of course, a
Oh,
lot of the Chinese phone problems of notifications not coming in and aggressive memory management.
the other big problem is that it's so confusing. There's no eSIM on here.
Oh, really? Did
The
not know
14
that.
has an eSIM, but the 14 Ultra doesn't. So, like, it's just the weirdest thing. And I agree with you. The interface, like, also, I need to like accept cookies in order to change my wallpaper because it wants to run a themes app instead of just a wallpaper. All of this, but who cares? Because the camera's that good.
And everything else is working. Like it's a
Yeah,
proper Android phone with all my Google apps. I can do Google Pay. I just don't have any major complaints on that front.
No,
But, I think that we should talk about the Oppo a little bit.
Okay.
I did a comparison when I was in Antarctica because I went to Antarctica in February with my spouse, Theo. We planned this a long time ago and we managed to squeeze it in earlier than expected. It was something we were planning to do in 25. We wanted to do it in 24. Awesome. But I'm like, oh, crap, like I need to bring some phones with me here. What do I do? Which ones do I bring, right? So of course, you know me, I travel with a half dozen phones all the time, pretty much, or more. So it's not a big deal. And I grabbed, as for photography, I grabbed the iPhone 15 Pro Max, the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, the Pixel 8 Pro from Google, and then of course the Oppo Find X7 Ultra, because at the time Xiaomi wasn't out yet. So I would have probably brought the Xiaomi with me. And with my intent here was based on my Hasselblad OnePlus Open OnePlus 12 experience was that the Oppo would be my main phone for all content other than maybe video. And because I also did some spatial video, which is cool.
Nice.
For some people who have a Vision Pro to watch it with, or if you have a Quest, because I believe that there's a way to do that now. Anyhow, I wrote a story for Forbes. I'll put the link in the show notes. Check it out. But the bottom line is this. Video, Apple still wins. Yes, Samsung's really good. Google still, Apple, definitely not a video device, in my opinion.
Okay.
Fine, but it's not going to be a game changer. If you don't have an iPhone, you have an Apple, you're going to be okay. It's just compared to what Apple does, like just wow. So I did most of my videos on the iPhone. And then I wasn't quite sure where the Samsung would fit in. I brought it because I'm like, it's very versatile. It's very well sorted usually. At this time, we'd gotten a couple of software updates already. The very initial quirks had been fixed. So I was like, let's see how this does. And to my surprise, this is my takeaway, because that's the closest thing to the Oppo for cameras. It just was better over 12x. Like anything below that, the Oppo kind of nailed it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
12x and more, I don't know why. it wasn't that great on the Oppo. And I think since then it's gotten software updates, which I think have improved that. And then so I quickly ended up using the Samsung for very far reaching zoom. And then I used the Oppo for everything else because the ultra wide is so good. The 1-inch sensor is really great as well. And then of course that folded telephoto, for both 3X and 6X, which, I've already experienced from having the OnePlus phones, right? So that was it was good. And then Google, though, where does Google fit into this? Well, this is the thing. If I had to capture something in the moment quickly, especially that had people in it, and I wanted that just consistency you get on an iPhone, but on an Android. And that's when I pulled out the Google. All the pictures of food on the boat, of my spouse, of myself, with selfie, all of that was Pixel. And then out and about, when we were zodiacking away to land or whatever, that's when I brought all the phones for the other stuff. And then, of course, the other thing that came in handy, and this is something I highly recommend for those of you who can afford to or want to have multiple phones on a trip, have an iPhone, because nobody else knows how to use anything else. Like when I handed the iPhone to the 60-year-old couple that was with us in the Zodiac to take a picture of Theo and I, they knew exactly what to do. I didn't have to set the camera, tell them what to press. It was the perfect phone to lend to complete strangers. So There's something to be said about that. Of course, disclaimer, I went on a cruise. It's an expedition. It's run by an American company. Most of the people on the ship were Americans. So, your mileage may vary if you're in Asia and Europe, obviously, because maybe people there are more familiar with the Google Pixel or the Samsung or the Oppo. I don't know, right?
I'm excited. Is there anywhere we can see more of the photos?
Yes,
from your trip?
I will actually, in the show notes, I will put a link to my entire photo gallery on Google Photos. You can actually click on the info up there to see the EXIF data, figure out which phone did what. You'll see there's some OnePlus Open photos in there too, because of course I had to bring a folding phone with me to be productive. And at one point, I think when they were giving us a tour of the submarine, there was a submarine in the ship that we took to go underwater and see some stuff. And it was a kind of crazy trip. For some reason, that's the phone that was in my pocket. So I grabbed the OnePlus Open and took all the photos of the submarine, as they were showing us the $5 million high-tech, state-of-the-art, giant plexiglass bubble submarine we're going to be in.
Amazing.
And so you'll see, don't be surprised you see the OnePlus Open pop up in there.
Cool.
But so what's your take on the Oppo? Because you obviously have used it as well. Where do you think it fits in this entire, state of the camera phone world right now?
We're really spoilt because there's almost a camera phone for everyone. And what I love about the Oppo, if you live in between the 1X and the 6X, the Oppo is very strong because also the two telecameras have really strong macro capabilities. So their nearest focus distance is much better than the Samsung and Pixel and iPhone. So if you like that kind of really good for product photography, if you like that kind of zoom range, so the 24 to kind of 70, I lean towards the Oppo over the other phones. But I agree with you in that the Pixel's always a safe bet. I don't like Apple's photo processing.
Oh, I do not.
So I will never use an iPhone for photos if I can help it. And I'm talking about the Pro Max.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the same way about Samsung.
Samsung,
I don't dislike them overall. If it's all the only phone I had in my hand, I'll be perfectly happy with that. But the Google Pixel. Yeah. I don't know. I'm biased because I've had a Pixel in my pocket since day one, right? I had Nexuses before that. My main phone has always been an Nexus or a Pixel. Let's face it. Yeah. So maybe that's what I'm used to. But I don't know. There's a certain aesthetic.
No, it's not just you. It really isn't.
It's just right. I don't know how to put it. I show my photos to camera people and they're like, you took this with a phone? And I'm like, did you edit? No. And I'm like, And I'm
I
like,
mean, you're an
yeah,
exceptional photographer, but also the fact you shoot at 2x a lot of your photos
all the time. Like you'll see
means
it's insane.
you kill the phone factor from it. So again, with the Oppo large sensor, I really enjoy shooting at 2x because you have that lossless, but also you've got a physically larger sensor. So I out of those, and you like say this very eloquently in your article, like it's the phone for enthusiast photographers out of those four.
For sure.
Yeah. And I will say though, I've had really pleasant experiences with the video, specifically at 1x, only because now I use the Xiaomi for most of my B-roll out and about. But before that, I was using the Oppo, and both of them, I think it's a dynamic range and the scope for editing afterwards. And when you shoot in pro mode, you can lock the white balance, or on the
Yeah.
Xiaomi, the log, which offers that extra dynamic range.
Yeah, for sure. And log on the iPhone is another thing that's really amazing.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I found the stabilization was a little lacking on the Oppo compare. And I think for the average person shooting by hand, like you and I are pretty careful. We can be steady in our little, B-roll shots.
Yeah.
But I think that for most people, it's a little more troublesome, and that's why I was like, and video wasn't my focus. Literally, when I was shooting video, I was just pulling out a phone and just hitting record, right? Like, and I was like, hopefully this works out. Yeah. So let's talk about the Moto, because, you also reviewed the new Moto that is coming to us. Maybe, I don't know. It will. Okay. I have a feeling we're not going to get the Ultra.
Okay.
We might just get the Pro, but I don't know.
That's a shame.
It's really hard to tell. They haven't briefed us. We don't have any idea. We know that it's coming because Moto PR has actually explicitly told us that yes, some of the Edge devices will be coming to North America.
Okay.
So I don't know which, but you have the best of the best. Is that the wooden one too?
No, I have the Pro, so not the Ultra.
Oh, you don't have the Ultra.
So
okay.
This is the pearlesque kind of white. So it's doing the whole, I think I've actually got a P60 Pro here. It's doing the Huawei P60 Pro kitchen counter thing you love so much.
Oh my God. That's kind of, the thing that the OnePlus is doing as well. Like the marble.
This is slightly different. So this is kind of striated. I actually really like the P60 Pro mother of pearl one. It's the only one that does that I like. I don't love the Vivo version or the Moto version too much. It's like striped.
So for those of you watching on Patreon right now, we've been brandishing phones on this show a lot. So Basil's showing it right now. I showed the Xiaomi earlier, so did Basil with the grip. And the R1, if you want to see the orangeness of the R1, I'm going to bring it out again here because it's that blind. Orange that you see in this video right now is really the orange. It's like, I think my Mac is doing a very good job at getting the color right because it's impossible to photograph, by the way.
I've heard.
Unless you have a Pixel.
Yeah.
Like I shot the photos for my podcast from last week with the Pixel as it was on about in the shade, to be frank. But you saw the photo and I did not have to edit that.
Nice.
Like that's what I'm talking about, Google. Like I do all my product photography with my Pixel 8 Pro because it's just so much less work. I'm lazy. I don't want to spend time on this stuff. I have
busy.
better things to do.
Yes.
So anyway. If you want to know Patreon, stay tuned to the end, patreon.com/TNKJRL, and I'll mention it more later. So Moto Pro. What's the deal? This is Gen 7, Gen 3, right?
Yeah, I'm going to say something that's going to get me in trouble, but Moto should have gone MediaTek.
Ooh, those are fighting words.
Yeah, the Snapdragon 7 Gen 3. So this is off the back of, I've just had a week with a $345 gaming phone with a MediaTek Dimensity 8200 Ultimate and the Tecno Camon with a Dimensity 8200 Ultimate. These are cheaper phones significantly that absolutely whoop the performance of this, what is in the UK, a £600 phone. Yeah. So the problem with it is it's beautiful. This phone, it does everything you kind of want an Edge to do. Tapers in at the sides, feels premium metal frame.
Wireless charging, the whole...
Wireless charging. Yeah, and the screen Pantone validated. And the camera takes decent pictures. Like Moto's finally getting its act together.
I know,
with
it started with the Edges last year, and I was like, whoa, they're finally getting there. And nobody was listening to me because everybody's already everybody's just dismissed Moto, that they will never make a decent camera. And when my review of the Moto Edge Plus last year here, which was for you guys, the Pro.
The 40.
People did not believe me. And I said, this camera is competitive with the best. And they're like, no. And I'm like, it's not at the top of the best, but it's like 99 percentile good. And they're like, no. And I'm like, and then I got the Edge non-Pro, which I guess was the Fusion for you guys.
No, that was the Edge 40.
That's right, the regular. And again, I feel the same as you do, I think, about this. The chip was low, not good enough. And then the software probably needs some optimization, but the camera actually really surprised me on the Edge 40.
But you see, the Edge 40 now here in the UK costs it's under
nothing
£300.
Here. It's $350 here now.
Yeah, which is incredible. So
and I don't know if you know this, but in the US, our MediaTek chip was a lesser chip than the one on the 40 in Europe. Because I think you guys got a 7200 or an 8200 or something.
Okay. I can't
remember. But we got like a 7020 or something. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Yeah. The ones that used to be the Dimensity 1100 that have been renamed.
Yeah.
So, so it feels to me like this is also possibly a software optimization issue, right?
Now, yes. Now, here's the thing. First off, if you want taking photos of like kids, pets, etc., you might be okay, but it has the craziest delay. When you take a picture, you tap it, you wait for the processing. What actually happens is this placeholder image that you see on your screen after about 2-3 seconds, maybe longer, completely changes. So this is obviously the software optimization, but also based on the price, £600 here, which is like the best part of $800 in the US. You don't
it's ridiculous.
Want this kind of chipset.
No,
you know, the
buy
Nothing Phone
12.
2. Yeah, OnePlus 12, Nothing Phone 2. There are so many good phones.
I know. Crazy.
So I love so much about this phone, but it is its Achilles heel is its performance, and whether that's optimization or just the chipset. I haven't had any of those issues with the Dimensity 8200, which is a last year chipset, let alone the 8300, which is in the Poco X6 Pro.
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah, it's pretty solid. Yeah.
Snappy, super snappy, cheaper, 512 gigabytes of RAM. Also, oh my gosh, I didn't even say it. So this has, I think it's UFS 2.1 storage.
What?
Yeah.
That's like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah, so they prioritize design, screen, and but it takes beautiful photos.
That's been the story with the Edge non-Pro, non-Ultra for a while, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think they could do a little better job. But look, I'm actually excited to see what the Ultra brings to the table and if we get it.
Yeah,
because
definitely. The wood one, I've used it. It feels super, super nice. Also, don't forget, this phone, I don't know how much of your listener base is in India. This phone costs half the price in India.
Of course.
So it's like £300.
And in typical Moto fashion, you know that 3 months from now, that phone's going to be half the price in the UK. And whatever equivalent we get here will be half the price in the US. Yeah. Crazy. So
that's why I'm like, watch this. This is a good phone at the right price.
Right. Well, let's see how it develops. I want to chat with you quickly. So you mentioned the Techno, and I want to just maybe quickly segue into that because the cameras, especially on the Premiere, seem really fascinating to me. Because there's a dedicated chip, correct?
Yeah, so there's a dedicated imaging chip. We've seen dedicated chips before. So the OnePlus 12 has a Pixelworks X7.
Yeah, a lot of OnePlus phones have the Pixelworks chips.
Exactly. Yeah. So for upscaling, and this kind of Techno wasn't super clear. In fact, I haven't published my review on this because I haven't even had pricing through. So I don't know how much it's going to cost. But I've created the review. It's a very compelling phone. The video looks great. The front camera has autofocus. The main camera takes decent photos, a 3x periscope. I've published a portrait photo of my partner on there, taken on it with no portrait mode, just the 3x. Really nice. The best Techno camera phone I've ever used, hands down.
You know, the Canon series from Techno, I've had a few of the older ones, have always impressed me for imaging. And I mean, I'm not an expert, but I've got a lot of experience with camera phones. So, that's why I got excited when I saw this, Techno Camon 30 Pro and Premiere come out. It was like, this has my attention, right?
Yeah. And it's got 350 megapixel cameras, and it's the first Techno phone I've seen, at least, with a periscope camera. And it's a similar kind of on paper setup to the OnePlus Open. It isn't the same sensor, but you have that 3x kind of really nice shallow depth of field. It flubs with color, like white balance, more than you're going to get from an Oppo or OnePlus.
Of course.
But for a Techno phone, and that is no doubt going to be super affordable, and this is a really frustrating thing. I came from the Moto Edge 50 Pro, which I should have been much, much more like hyped about, to the Camon. And between the Camon's like screen camera performance mainly, I've preferred the Camon to a Moto phone.
The weird software on the Camon too, because that's the other thing,
Yeah, I've been really surprised.
Like Infinix and Techno's software, oof. And also, forget updates. It's like getting a Red Magic phone, every year I review the Red Magic gaming phone. I've got the 9 Pro right now. I'm playing with it. Expect a review on Hot Hardware in the next month or so. But the every time I play with that software, I'm like, who made that software? It's just a nightmare. And then I'm thinking but I understand that if you want the best performance possible it's super cheap, and it's like $650 US, and you get a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and like amazing screen, the fan and everything. Like I get the appeal. So yeah. Speaking of iffy software, tell us about your experience using the Nubia Flip 5G from ZT Nubia, the folding phone that competes with like the Moto Razr Non-Plus, I guess.
I've really enjoyed this. So for anyone who can't see it, I've got this on camera now, and it is super cute. The like front display is circular, so it's kind of like a throwback to...
It's like a smartwatch display, basically.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's super simple. And you know what? Like, having come from flip phones with very, very smart front displays, I kind of just prefer this.
Yeah. I felt the same way with the regular Razr. I'm like, it's got its flaws, the camera is... But honestly, like, I don't think I need a fancy display in the front.
No, I don't need to run Android apps on the front of my phone. What I need is camera access. I need my calendar. I need like a few simple things, and I need to be able to tap it, see the time, and notifications. So it checks all the boxes. In the US, I believe it's $499. Here in the UK, it's £499. I mean, is it perfect? No, it's got one camera, but it hasn't got OIS on that camera, but you can still get a decent photo. I don't know whether it's because Nubia launched the Z60 Ultra and have like tuned their camera processing a little bit, but it borrows a little bit of that more reliable color science, maybe, than past Nubia devices. Still overexposes a little, but I really have got some decent pictures from it for the price. Solid flip phone. It's not sealed, no weatherproofing, nothing like that. So, but 256 gig storage, lasts a full day comfortably, and it feels solid.
Nice. Well, I'm going to try to get one. I've requested one, but I haven't heard anything. Red Magic and Nubia here in the US are very much like, if you cannot promise a review, we're not going to send you anything. And that's not how it really works. So I just always be honest with them and say, well, I can't guarantee you that. So then they often don't send me stuff. The reason I still get the Red Magic is that generally I do end up reviewing it in some way or another. But with Nubia, they've sent me a bunch of phones that I didn't review, so I think I might not get that one. But oh well. Look, stay tuned. There'll be reviews out there on the US market once available. And in the same way as we've seen reviews of the camera-centric one they launched at MWC, right? So let's talk about the news. I'm thinking, Basil, let's try something new and exciting where each of us pick, like we alternate and we just like tell people what we think. And we don't elaborate. It's just more like PSA. Here's the news on this device. Here's what you need to know. Are you up for that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I'm going to start with the Blackview. So speaking of cheap folding phones, right? This phone, like, I don't know if you guys remember, because I mentioned it on the podcast before, but me and Michael Fisher at MWC one day looked at each other and said, let's find all the cheap, like Chinese Shenzhen special folding phones we can find. And we'd spent like multiple hours scouring the show floor. And we found all of them, in fact, including this Blackview. So now it's official. It's available. Is it really official? I don't know. But it's available, coming soon. And you get some official photos here, some specs. So check out this link I'll put to GSM Arena. I'll give you a quick rundown. Folding AMOLED 1080p, it's got a 108 megapixel camera, which is ISOCELL HM6 from Samsung. It should be okay, but that's basically all you get. There's an 8 megapixel ultra wide and a 32 megapixel front camera. Nothing to write home about. It's a 4G phone with a MediaTek Helio G99. And I remember this from MWC, thinking to myself, wow, 4G phone, 4,000 milliamp hour battery, 45 watt charging. And basically straightforward. I don't know if the display is 60 hertz or higher, but I don't pricing either. Should be cheap.
I think £400 is what, $400 or pounds is what I have.
There you go, 425-ish. So keep an eye on that. I think it should be interesting to see these phones go down in price, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. I think it's going to be like the less people spend on phones, the less careful they are. So I'm also kind of terrified given how delicate folding phones are comparatively. But time will tell.
Yeah, 100%. All right, next item is yours. Grab it.
OnePlus announced a couple of things for Europe, and these are exclusive Europe launches. So, in fact, relaunches for the OnePlus Pad Go, which is OnePlus's budget tablet.
Did we get that in the US?
I think it only launched in India.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember getting PR about it and going like,
Yeah. So it launched in India. It did well. Actually has the same Helio G990 as the Blackview, I believe. So super budget chip. But like I've been using it and it is a perfect mum or dad tab. Like really, really like smooth performance for what you need it to do. But one thing I'm enjoying more, the OnePlus Watch 2, which is awesome for anyone who hasn't used it. It's really like the only Android Wear watch with like decent battery life. What's cool about the update is it's available in a new color blue. That's nothing special, but the fact that OnePlus has improved the heart rate reading by creating these straps that I'm going to put mine to the camera, these straps that seal any light leak. So you'd think a new color wouldn't be that big a deal, but the new leather strap actually supports a sealed light leak. So anyone who wants super accurate heart rate tracking, the OnePlus Watch 2 in blue. It's like, I don't love the color. It's also leather and I'm vegan. So like I probably wouldn't wear one myself, but
the color is officially Nordic blue.
Nordic blue.
Get the idea that I wish it was vegan leather.
Yeah, but the durability I kind of get.
Yeah, the silicone it feel a little cheap to me. I mean, they're not bad quality, I'm saying, but silicone always feels a little cheap to me. It's not the quality of specifically the OnePlus straps.
Yeah, completely. And actually, if you take a look at the Nordic blue, it looks very cool. It looks very classical watch-like. So I do actually like the style, but if you are averse to wearing leather, then it won't be for you. So that's the one.
Well, the green one is nice. That's the one I have.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, the next one we have is the Nothing Phone 2A in blue. Speaking of blue, Nothing has launched another color. It's India only, but it's blue. That's basically all you need to know.
What
color
blue.
Would you denim? What color do you think this blue is?
I mean, I wouldn't even. Based on the pictures, I'd hardly call it blue. It's kind of like, deep
navy?
water. It's very dark.
Deep aqua, yeah.
Yeah, but it looks cool.
So
it looks cool.
Is it just me or do you feel the same way? Because I thought we were going to get that yellow from the
glow in the dark one.
From the ear A color, the new yellow.
No, I don't know if you've seen, they had a competition for people, fans to design one, and someone designed a kind of like glow in the dark one. And I thought that's what you meant, and it looks really cool.
No, I meant just the yellow color from the yellow earbuds. You've seen them. Have you seen them?
I've seen them and they look cool.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Here, actually, I've got them right here for the Patreons. Let me show you. This is worth taking a second. All right, check out this yellow.
Bumblebee.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's beautiful.
And also same color as earwax. So
yeah, I wish this color Phone 2A had come out.
Yeah.
To match these. It would have been amazing.
Awesome.
So anyway, that's what we got from Nothing. And there's a couple of side items. I just mentioned them earlier. The ChatGPT version of Nothing OS 2.55 was until now just available for Phone 2, now for Phone 2A and Phone 1 as well. So check out your software updates if you haven't in a while. Okay, I guess it's my turn. What do we got here? Oh, Pixel 8a price leaks. How do you feel about that? $499. That makes sense.
You guys always have much cheaper Pixels than we do. So I'm going to reserve judgment until UK pricing drops. But I mean, it looks tasty. Like the phone looks good. The new color is poppy. If that green ends up happening.
Oh,
so,
I kind of want that. Yeah, I hope I get that
might.
one. My review unit is incoming. I don't know when.
Yeah.
All I know is what I know from the leaks. It's funny because I got a review unit coming in. I've not been briefed. I have no idea. So what I know is that this is essentially a Pixel 7a with rounded corners, a brighter screen, 120 hertz display, G3 chip, and bigger storage options, which wasn't the case on the previous versions.
Yes.
This is what I know from the rumors, so don't hold me to that. But what I'm trying to say, slightly delicately, is possibly go buy a Pixel 7a right now. Because look, the reality is, it's in the US, you can buy it for $349 or something.
Mm.
Like, why wouldn't you? I bought one for my mom when I was in France after MWC.
Yeah.
She loves it.
Yeah.
I didn't think my mom would ever love her phone, and she loves it.
Awesome. What color did you go for?
I can't remember what she got. We put in the case right away. So, but honestly, can't remember. I think it was the black, maybe, or whatever, the gray or whatever color. But here's the thing: it was tossed between that and a Redmi of some kind, and I was like, the Redmi had better features for the money, and I played with that Redmi as a review unit beforehand, and I was like, Mom, you know what? For you, I think, you're complaining about your camera all the time.
Yeah.
My
parents with shaky hands, Pixels are definitely for them.
Amazing. And she would never buy an iPhone, my mom. She's like, not at all, Apple. All right, so let's see. You've got the next item, I think.
Okay, so apparently the new iPad Pros will skip the M3 chip and hop over to the M4 chip, in addition to bringing an OLED display to the iPad Pro line or iPad line for the first time, therefore making it the thinnest iPad. We're also going to get to debut the M4 chip, which is really interesting. What do you think of that, Miriam?
Hey, I'm puzzled by that. I mean, look, I'm not surprised we're getting iPad Pros revised with OLED displays, all that. The leaks have been kind of coming in. This is a rumor, by the way, so just, the data has been coming slowly, and it makes sense. We've been waiting for iPads for a while. It's been a while. M4, though, has got me raising both my eyebrows because I'm not very good at just raising one eyebrow. But honestly, really? What does that mean for the Mac? Because you just launched an Air with M3, and
so from what I've read, it's all around messaging to do with AI. And so that's the justification for the rumor. But I'll be whatever it is. I have one of those kind of like excellent 2018 iPad Pros, but now it's starting to not run DaVinci with 4K output. It's not running like certain software. So it's only starting to creak a little bit. So I'll be getting one, and I cannot wait because I've waited for a long time for an update.
Well, that's exciting. Yeah. I'm really curious about this M4 thing. That is
Me too.
And the whole AI stuff that's going to be announced.
Yeah.
at Worldwide Developer Conference. So yeah, it's interesting because we're also probably going to get something from Samsung that's AI centric, and then Google I/O is a few weeks away. I'm going, and
Nice.
also that's probably why we're getting Pixel 8a seeded to us now, because they'll probably announce it then. It'd be interesting to see how much of the Pixel 8a experience emphasizes AI. Obviously, whatever it can do with the G3 chip, the 8 and 8 Pro can do, and so it could retroactively, whatever they announce that I/O would run on that. Whether it's available out the gate or not is what I'm interested to find out. If the 8A, wouldn't it be amazing if the 8A is the first Pixel phone that has that kind of AI stuff baked in from the get-go or shortly after launch?
It is. So Oppo, I don't know if you got all the stuff about the Reno, I think it's 11F, which has all the AI photo editing that's from the Find X7.
So I got the update from my Find X7.
Find X7. So
Ultra.
Yeah, Oppo's launched the 11F, which is super cheap in Europe, like comparatively. And that has all of that AI stuff. And they've kind of said you're not going to be charged for it. So they're like more brands are trying to weave in AI into the like more affordable offerings.
It's happening, folks. We cannot escape the AI.
No.
Well, I think this is a good way to wrap up. Like, there's way more news this week. I had to filter. I'm sorry. And Basil has more reviews coming. He's going to send me the links to whatever else we've talked about on the show that we didn't get links for yet. And we'll have all that in the show notes for you. So, Basil, do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet, where you write, all your social media handles, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter Basil_knows, as in KNOWS, and I have a YouTube channel tech_edit, and on Muckrack, which is a journalist site, you can see where I've written stuff for Digital Camera World, T3, etc.
Muckrack is convenient for that. I think it's got all my stuff as well. Sometimes it's not perfectly accurate, but it's so nice. I'm using Linktree now. I just got a list and it's just like, points to my bio page, which then shows you all the links to all my things.
Nice.
Works really nicely. So folks, Basil makes awesome content. You need to follow, you need to read, you need to watch. That's basically the bottom line. Absolutely. And you all know where to find me on the internet. I'm at Tankgirl, TNKGRL. Like the comic book character, drop the vowels, you get my handle. You'll find me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Threads, on Blue Sky, and, check out the stuff. And then, of course, please subscribe to the podcast, mobiletechpodcast.com. We're on all the platforms, so, pull out your favorite podcasting app, subscribe. And if you can rate or review the show, that'd be pretty awesome. Please consider doing that. There's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. It's got some monthly unboxing videos in there, and you can see some cool gadgets close and personal. It's nice. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, comment, all that good stuff. And if you want to help me, there is that Patreon we've been mentioning, and we were pretty heavy on showing devices this show. So next show, maybe we'll have even more. So consider checking it out, patreon.com/Tankgirl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL. There is basically one perk there, which is the video version for $5 a month. You can contribute less, and I would still appreciate your support. You can contribute more, and you still get the video. The video version comes out a little in advance, generally a day and a half, sometimes 2 days in advance. And sometimes I leave some of the funny things, like the FedEx doorbell rings, or some funny noise happens outside, or we blooper, and it's fun, and we leave it in there. Sometimes we go over time. And you get extra content that way, because I try to keep the audio version to less than an hour and 20 minutes. That's the trick. It's not easy. It's trust me. So if you want to help me out, patreon.com/TNKGRL. Also, if you don't want to do the Patreon thing, because maybe you don't like Patreon, it's fair. There is a PayPal link in the show notes. You can click through, buy me a cup of coffee, whatever, $5, donate. Appreciate it. Makes me do this show every week, because it's a lot of work, and sponsorships help somewhat, but ultimately I still need your help, and I would appreciate it. So I also want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. I review a lot of phones, so I'm constantly juggling multiple devices. While that's fun, it also means I'm spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. Thankfully, there's Mint Mobile, and that's who I'm teaming up with for today's podcast. If you want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. You've probably seen the Mint Mobile ads featuring Ryan Reynolds, but let me quickly tell you how fantastic their service is, especially for tech-savvy early adopters like us. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current devices and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card free of charge. The whole process only takes 15 minutes, and if you get stuck, Mint has a great customer service team to get you through it. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning-fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link, mintmobile.com/mobiletech, to get premium wireless starting at $15 a month. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And I want to thank you, Basil, for being my guest yet again. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Miriam.
Absolutely. We'll have Basil on again sometime in the future, folks. And of course, we'll have a show next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.